Hey now, welcome everybody to Redacted on this Thursday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris.
And on this show, we try to navigate the crazy clown world that we currently live in, bringing you the truth, seeking the truth wherever it may lead us. We try to just be led by facts, and those facts lead us to some crazy places. And tonight on the show, we are going to be talking about some crazy places because some amazing details about this COVID bombshell story. And just these, these unelected globalists who are back at it again and what they're exactly trying to do. We're talking about Dr. Fauci. We're talking about Bill Gates. We're talking about the people that have put together and are actively working on the next pandemic and doing it right before our eyes. We're going to show you some bombshell details about that tonight. That's, we all need to wake up and pay attention to what these guys are doing.
And the energy crisis continues to worsen. It seems to be one of the main reasons that the Prime Minister of England, Liz Truss, has resigned. We're going to talk about why she was really fighting a losing battle and why the rest of us are really not any better off because of it.
So is she the shortest serving Prime Minister in England's history? The shortest wow. It was like 3 weeks or something.
I hardly knew you.
Holy smokes, that's unbelievable.
Did you see the lettuce thing where
yes.
I think it was the Daily Mirror where they had a head of lettuce and it was
a live stream with a camera set on a picture of Liz Truss and a head of lettuce and which would survive longer. And this was like a week ago. Huh. And the head of lettuce survived longer.
Okay.
That's unbelievable. Also, we're going to be talking about troubling signs of World War. We've got a special guest on the show who has some unbelievable data about what China and Russia are planning and what the United States is doing right now and how far behind the Western countries are to this plan. So we'll talk and unpack that. You're not going to believe it.
Plus, drag shows for children. It doesn't matter what you think of it. Your tax dollars are funding it. We found a government contract for drag shows in Ecuador. That's how your tax dollars are being spent. We're going to tell you all about it.
Yep. So Redacted starts right now. Welcome. We got a new Rebel. If you become a subscriber, your name will pop right up here on the old big screen. So if you become a Redacted Rebel tonight, just subscribe to the channel. We want to thank all of you because we just passed 1.3 million people who are subscribed to our channel. So we really appreciate that. All of you seeking the truth. I get emails and messages from around the world. So thank you for taking time out, saying goodbye to the mainstream media, and seeking the truth right along with us. That's the goal.
Yes, it is. Thank you for those of you in the chat who remembered that today is our wedding anniversary.
Yes.
So it's a special day. Thank you so much. Remember.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've been married for how long, dear?
So also on the show tonight, we've got,
Show the picture.
Many decades.
12 years. 12
one
years.
dozen.
1 dozen.
One dozen of years.
What is a baker's dozen? 13?
No, actually,
a baker's dozen or
13.
A baker's dozen is 13, and you know why? Because in medieval times, if you were caught cheating in your business, it was punishable by death. So a baker didn't want to accidentally not serve a dozen, so they always added an extra in order to not die.
Oh, okay. So
did you know that? Did you know that, Philip? Philip knows all these things.
So
I did know that.
I was bad business.
What?
I was gonna actually say that, but then you jumped right into it. But
okay.
It also had to do with the weight. It was the weight of the total bread. They typically put into 12 loaves, and so they would add extra just so that the weight lined up. So yeah.
And I feel like that's one of those little factoids that I learn every few years and then I forget it.
Oh. Okay.
You know? Or it's like the rule of thumb. Like I know, the rule of thumb is like the thumb on the scale, right?
That's not what it is. The rule of thumb is
it's the measurement.
The width of a stick that you're allowed to beat your wife with in colonial times. And so let's not test it here. All wives on the set do not agree to that.
It's an old wives' tale about that rule of thumb. All right. We do have a daily newsletter that you should all read. We should include factoids in that. We have tons of factoids in there. Every day when you sign up for our newsletter, if you go to redacted.inc and you sign up, you'll receive a new welcome email. Someone yesterday said, hey, I didn't receive the welcome email. It's probably in your spam folder. And you have to click on the activate button or the verify button. So go to your spam folder whenever you sign up. And then every morning, Monday through Friday, you'll receive our great newsletter totally for free, delivered right to your inbox. So become a VIP rebel as well when you're over at redacted.inc, and you can sign up and support what we do here as independent journalists covering the news. And we are not bought and sold by mainstream media and billionaires. So on this show, we are not. So welcome on this Thursday night. All right, let's get to our top story. We have a saying on this show that conspiracy theories are simply spoiler alerts, right? That in a few months, we normally see the truth. It started out perhaps as a conspiracy theory, but then it unfolds, and guess what? We get the truth. What sounded like a conspiracy theory, I think maybe a couple of years ago, that the idea that a friendly grandfather-looking guy named Anthony Fauci would help fund and then lead the largest crime in world history, perhaps. And then it would be covered up and hidden by the biopharmaceutical industry and world governments through censorship and lockdowns and all manner of cover-up. That the United Nations would admit with its backers and the World Economic Forum that its collaborators with big tech companies like Google and Facebook would bury the truth so that you don't get to learn what's actually going on in the world. That they would actually finally admit that they're spiking search results on everything from climate change to the pandemic. Watch.
We partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it, and the platforms themselves also do. But again, it's a huge challenge that I think all sectors of society need to be very active in.
Oh, okay. So the United Nations picking what search results we get from everything from climate change to vaccines and everything else in between. Thank you. Thanks to the United Nations for keeping our search results clean.
Well, she owns the science and also the platforms, which she means the search engines.
Right. So that was a conspiracy theory, right? That started out, right, as a conspiracy theory that, wow, these global elites are actually controlling what we're allowed to see. And then the United Nations, they actually admit it. They tell us right in front of our faces what it is, when the truth about it. That climate was only one of the things that they partnered with Google to prevent you learning about. Well, we now know that that's all true. Well, then this next story sounds like an even crazier conspiracy theory that after a global pandemic forces, millions of people into government-mandated lockdowns, hundreds of thousands of businesses destroyed, lives ruined, hundreds of billions of dollars in profits for the biopharmaceutical complex, that they would try to do it all over again with the very same people who led it the first time, almost as if it was a trial run, that first pandemic. Well, Bill Gates, Dr. Fauci, Peter Strzok, all of them, and the biopharmaceutical industry, they would be actively working on the real pandemic because the first one was just a trial run. It was just a
dress rehearsal.
A beta test, right? For the real thing that was actually coming. It sounds like a movie, but of course it's not. It's all true. It's not a conspiracy theory at all. We learned this week that researchers at Boston University produced a new strain of COVID that is 80% deadlier than before. They did it with your tax dollars. We covered this when it broke a few days ago, but now we're learning who's behind it, and it's incredibly disturbing. But first, we'll have some context here. So this was the Boston lab. Researchers at Boston University who are now trying to walk this back, even though they already published their research and now Congress is looking into it. So the researchers combined the spike protein from Omicron to the original Wuhan strain, which produced a new strain of COVID that is 80% deadly. They used human-mouse hybrids. So they have the exact same response on human beings. That's why they use these human-mouse hybrids. Can you imagine how freaky that is? Human-mouse hybrids?
No.
But that's what they use, so that they know that this is exactly the same response on humans. Remember, Omicron was the one that attached itself to everything. Remember how like sticky it was? We kept hearing how sticky Omicron was. It was pretty weak, actually, but it was highly contagious. So if you got Omicron, not a big deal, we were hearing, because, you know, you probably get it. Everyone's going to catch it, but it's pretty weak. It's like getting the sniffles. That's what we heard about Omicron, right? Mm-hmm. So what if we took the original strain of COVID that was actually pretty strong, and then we added it with the spike protein of Omicron, and we made it way more contagious? Well, how quickly could this spread? Well, just look at the CDC's own chart. This is from the CDC's own chart. And I want you to look at the deep purple on the right side of your screen. That is Omicron and how quickly it would spread. Of course, this was in December of 2021. This is how quickly Omicron spread in December 2021 into January 2022. So that purple is the vehicle that they're using to deliver this new deadly virus in their research. Smart move, right? They took the fastest, most contagious one and slapped it on there. We now know that the work of this Boston lab was supported by a grant from the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, specifically from the NIAID, which is the organization that Dr. Fauci leads. During a Senate hearing on May 11th, Senator or Dr. Rand Paul, whatever you'd like to call him, specifically asked Dr. Fauci about the funding of gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the potential link between the COVID-19 outbreak and the lab itself. Gain-of-function, of course, is when you take an existing virus to the lab and then you give it some sort of enhanced abilities, like Steve Rogers getting a super soldier serum. He goes from a wimpy kid into Captain America. Highly risky, very dangerous. This is how the liar responded to that question.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they fund
of Virology.
Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina.
Okay. Well, we now know that was a lie.
Do you remember that Obama administration made gain-of-function illegal, and then Fauci begged Trump to remove that, and that was actually removed and made okay again?
Right. So this was illegal. This was illegal for a number of years. Exactly right. And the NIH admits then, after this little interlude, that no, in fact, they were funding risky research in Wuhan. So the NIH then admitted that, oh, yes, they did indeed fund that gain-of-function research. And yes, that back under the Obama administration, Fauci had directed funds from the NIH to gain-of-function research in North Carolina. And it was later moved to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And, oh, yes, according to the evidence, the EcoHealth Alliance in New York City that received funding from Fauci was working with the Wuhan lab, creating a highly contagious bioweapon. Whoops, we forgot to tell you. So I was just lying to you in front of Congress. And he still has a job. He's not been fired. He's also still, to this day, the highest paid government official. So then when questioned on this, after this release about the Wuhan Institute of Virology and this news from the NIH that they admitted this, Dr. Fauci was asked the question again. Maybe now he would admit to it. Watch.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
Right. Well, it was illegal. I say it was illegal for gain-of-function research to be taking place after the United States government placed a ban on it in 2014, as Dave just pointed out. That the U.S. government banned gain-of-function research, which singled out viruses that caused the flu, which had or caused severe acute respiratory syndrome, and the MERS virus because of their deadly nature. That's why it was banned. It was stopped. But then...
Well, and I want to point out really quick, too, that that's potentially why they were doing research in Wuhan, and we found all those labs in Ukraine, because if it's illegal here, it wasn't illegal over there.
Yeah, well, you move it from North Carolina. You move it out of the country because now it's illegal here.
And we only found out those labs because of happenstance, because of events that shone light on those places. So where else is it that we don't know about?
Right.
Where we're not looking.
Right. So then the U.S. government in 2017, 3 years later, the NIH quietly started doing it again to flu viruses, gain-of-function research. But they would have to be reviewed by the NIH before they could proceed with this. Oh, okay. Here then is the problem. So Boston University's study was approved in March 2020 and funded by Dr. Fauci.
Wait. The one that you were talking about,
Yes.
that we found out about this week, was
Yes.
approved?
Yes.
Oy.
The Boston University study was approved in March 2020 and funded by Dr. Fauci and the NIH.
In fact, when we talked
is
about
that
this story just a few days ago, we showed you the credits, as they will, the thank yous in the abstract of that study, which does mention the NIH.
Right. And you can look right here on on Boston University's website today. Put that back up there if you would, Philip. This is the one you just had up a second ago. Yeah, that one. Here it is. Right on Boston University's website. You can go to Boston University's website right now and read all about the funding from the NIH, funding of the Boston University, led by Dr. Fauci. Oh, and
when did you
hold on a second.
that chart?
Hold on a second. While you're on that website, while you're there, you might be interested to also just kind of poke around on Boston University's website to find out who else was funding Boston University on this research. That's it.
Get the heck out of here.
Bill Gates. I mean, you can't make this shit up, guys. It's right there on their website. And we know through the grant programs that, in fact, yes, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation continues to fund these gain-of-function research at Boston University and the NIH. So there's one major problem with this March 2020 date. Dr. Fauci was sitting before Congress telling us that he and the NIH were not funding gain-of-function research. So let's hang that date out there for a second. March 2020.
Oh, you don't have to remind me. That's the start of the pandemic for most people in the Western world. That's when everybody went into lockdown.
Ding, ding, ding. You got it right.
Well, I was going to say, that document that you showed earlier that showed when Omicron took off, that was well after this. And they got approval to test Omicron?
Very good.
Specifically?
Boston University files the application to do this research in March of 2020, according to CBS News today. Locally, a spokesperson for the Boston Public Health Commission says it's now reviewing application materials from the study's scientists to confirm that the research was conducted in conformity with protocols, that they were properly overseen. The commission approved a proposed research protocol submitted by the scientists in March 2020, the spokesperson said. March 2020.
How did they know anything about Omicron
Very good.
in March 2020?
Maybe this chart will help maybe jog your memory. You guys are already too smart for me. But here is the chart. So March 2020, go back March 2020 on that chart. It's before this chart. There is no such thing as Omicron in March 2020. So their research included taking the highly contagious Omicron variant and attaching it to the original strain of COVID, which kills 80% of their subjects. That's what their research paper says in their just published results. The problem is that when they applied for this research, Omicron didn't exist. We didn't learn of Omicron until almost 2 years later. Again, look at the purple. December 2021. That's when we learn about Omicron. That's when we see this massive uptick and highly contagious Omicron. So they approved this in March 2020. Here's the statement given to CBS News today from Boston Public Health Authority on this, from the Boston Public Health Authority spokesperson. The Boston University Institutional Biosafety Committee, Boston Biosafety Committee, and Boston Public Health Commission approved this research protocol in March 2020 after full review of the proposed research and under the condition that the lab follow all applicable safety records controls, including CDC guidelines for handling COVID-19. And those imposed by the Boston Biological Laboratory regulations to protect public health and safety. The Boston Public Health Commission is in the process of reviewing all application materials related to this study to confirm that the research was conducted in conformity with protocols and that they were properly overseen. So this begs the question then, which we still don't have the answer to at this hour, what was the proposed research? At the very moment when the world was going into lockdown, you were given a gain-of-function approval for COVID research at Boston University under Dr. Fauci's office. Dr. Fauci's office says they didn't know about this research this afternoon.
Well, now
really?
they're saying there are people calling for an investigation into this very study. So we will be able to see whether they name Omicron by name or they somehow otherwise identify the strain in a way that is equally identifiable to Omicron, or if it was an abstract, as if we would like to take a more contagious strain if and when some comes out, and we'll wait for that. I don't know. But the only thing that gives me any kind of like maybe wiggle room in this statement is the word protocol. Like maybe they just sort of approved the idea of the study before they knew what the next virus was.
But the problem is, the problem with this protocol and the problem with all of that is that it needs to, if they end up doing or changes and it becomes highly risky or highly viral, they need to contagious. They need to then have approval, and they need to get approval then from the NIH,
okay,
and Dr. Fauci's office. So that has to be reviewed and approved according to these protocols. Nevertheless, it changed from whatever it was in 2020, and they got approval at the height of the pandemic, right when everything was going into lockdown, and we were being told that no gain-of-function research was happening in the United States. They were lying to us, and the people that were lying to us are still out there doing it again.
Well, and I remember I got it in 2020 of February, and I could not even find a place to get tested. I could not find a place to get anything. Vaccines weren't even out yet. Like, this is pre-everything.
Yeah.
So will Dr. Fauci go to jail for this? For perpetrating one of the greatest lies ever told? I mean, because if you think about it, if he didn't know this, then what kind of a leader is he of his own office who's approving gain-of-function research in the United States?
Or his lackeys
illegally?
underneath him are doing something that's incredibly dangerous and he doesn't know. That doesn't jive.
Right. So then you should be fired for that. And if you do know, you should be fired and also prosecuted criminally. I mean, think about the millions of people whose lives either lost or ruined as a result of this.
Mm-hmm.
He should be charged criminally just for the fact that he tried to block not Berenstein. What was the documents that came out from those other scientists that had a different idea of how this could have been handled? And looking in hindsight, if we would have listened to those scientists, things would be completely different.
Yeah.
So he was already busted with emails, when we got them, they were all redacted and everything. So that alone, he should be jailed.
Well, somebody needs to hold his feet to the fire for sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, we do have a new film out today about the real Anthony Fauci, just released this afternoon. Of course, the censorship is overwhelming on that. It's based on the book by the same name, but it's the film version of it. It's totally free right now, so you can actually watch it for like the next 10 days for free. By the way, the link, you can't even find the link because according to the filmmakers, they've already been deplatformed and blocked. So even like doing Google searches, it's almost difficult to find. So when will Dr. Fauci go to jail for this? When will he be criminally prosecuted for this? The greatest lie ever told, and arguably killing millions of people as a result of this. Again, it's all one big cabal, and Ursula von der Leyen today is being held to account as well for these shady contracts with Pfizer. And why were these so many doses, these contracts put together kind of privately and through text messages, and they're calling now for the resignation of EU Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen. Watch this.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, Ursula von der Leyen must immediately and unconditionally resign from her position as President of the European Commission due to the fact that her actions are currently criminally investigated by the European Public Prosecutor's Office. EPPO just announced a few days ago that it's investigating the way the contracts were signed between the European Commission and the producers of vaccines. And this is what the Court of Auditors just stated in a report released a few days ago, and I quote, "The Commission has signed, up to November 2021, 71 billion euros worth of contracts on behalf of the member states to purchase up to 4.6 billion COVID-19 vaccine doses. That means that she purchased 10 doses of vaccines for every EU citizen based on contracts that were never released to the public. This is how the contracts that she signed with these pharmaceutical companies were released to the public. How is this possible in the European Union that is called to be transparent with the way it's using people's money? So I'm asking again and calling again for immediate and unconditional resignation. Thank you.
Will that happen? Will that happen?
Well, think about it. We have to, in order for people to opt in from the UK for a newsletter, you have to have all kinds of disclaimers for the UK, for your,
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you a little something about European bureaucracy. It does not happen over text message. Nothing is easy in Europe. You cannot even, nothing, zero. We know this because we are residents, and to get each paperwork is like you have to drink a bottle of wine after you try one little single bureaucratic task.
Right. Your whole day will be taken up by going to the DMV.
And so there is no circumstance under which the European Commission would acceptably exchange deals surreptitiously on text message. It doesn't jive with the way that we live here.
No. I mean, it wouldn't. Let us know your thoughts on this in the chat below. Let's talk about food shortages.
Okay, sure. Let's talk about food shortages. Well, global leaders are trying to ease you into a time of global shortages and signaling that it's going to be bad, but you're going to like it.
Oh, take it.
Yeah. There's a book from one of the Harry Potter books that my son likes to quote. You're going to suffer, but you're going to be happy about it.
Right.
So that's how you're supposed to feel about this. Well, not all global leaders are up for this task. British Prime Minister Liz Truss has thrown in the towel. She resigned today, making her the shortest termed prime minister in the history of Britain.
I came into office at a time of great economic and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
All right, so she's saying she came to fix the energy crisis and the economy, and she doesn't think she can do it. She doesn't really give a reason. She says, basically, given this mountainous task, can't do it.
Can't do it. There's
gonna go.
Global food shortages by 2023 are going to be the worst. Even way worse than we ever predicted. I can't handle that job. I got to go.
But so then it begs the question, could anyone in that position do it by staying the course of gas sanctions and support for foreign war and looming power shortages and global supply chains? If you want to stay that course of politically manipulated tragedy, then no, nobody can do it, right? And that was her priority. Listen to what she said about exactly what her priorities were earlier this week.
It was one of my first acts in office to make sure the military support we give to Ukraine is equal to the military support we gave this year. We must make sure Ukraine win. They can win, they will win, and they must win.
All right, so she wanted Ukraine to win, but she didn't care if she lost, right? Okay. In the words of Ron Weasley, another Ron Weasleyism, she needs to sort out her priorities.
Yeah, priorities.
And no one wants to suffer while she tried. She had a 9% approval rating by some polls. So can anyone else help in the U.S., or the UK or the EU for that matter, or are we just all headed for colossal shortages of energy and supply? Well, Bill Gates, our best friend Billy Boy, acknowledges that the supply shortage is going to be bad, but ultimately he thinks that will be a good thing. In an interview with CNBC this week, he said that the gas supply crisis is good in the long run because it will force us into greener technologies and energies.
Oh.
He didn't say that he did say, well, it's not right to take all fossil fuels right now because that's how people get to work. There's a lot more than just like people's commutes that depend on fossil fuels. But he's above it. He's up here. He doesn't know exactly how people use fossil fuels in their everyday life. But okay. He said that ultimately, though, this is going to happen and we're going to see more openings for green steel mills, green power plants, and green this and that. Like literally, we're just going to show up to all these openings and be like, great, yeah, this is great.
I mean, his soundbite is amazing. I mean, he literally tells a CNBC reporter, like, you know, hey, it's no big, like, look, it's bad. I know it's bad. Like, you know, we still need some transitional stuff. But in the long run, it's fantastic. It really is fantastic. It's all part of our plan coming together.
I don't know how you're going to build a factory that produces renewables without fossil fuels. The logistics of that don't make sense to me. Like if you want to build a factory to make green energy, you need old energy to build it. You know, like there's a lot of sort of assumptions in here that he's just like floating on a cloud and completely disconnected from how people actually live. But he's not really worried about how you live or what you eat right now. He thinks that a little pain is good for you. It's like a condescending father who thinks you scraped up your knee because it's character building. So here are the things that we, the people, are going to collectively have to deal with this winter that we already have. 2/3 of European fertilizer production has already been shut down. That is currently how we grow food. With fertilizer, there is not enough compost to sort of make up for that. So what food is grown will screech to a halt. 2/3. Plummeting currencies throughout, specifically Britain and the EU, are making global trade harder. That means that food producers and food suppliers can buy less, therefore produce more. Bird flu is killing millions upon millions of chickens and turkeys, causing a meat shortage. This is not just in Europe, it's all over. And then take a look at this. In Mississippi, there's a drought that has caused low water levels. This means that a lot of goods cannot be shipped using the river. And you probably don't think much about all the goods that are typically shipped by river, but according to the industry site FreightWaves, the barge industry is crucial for moving aluminum, petroleum, fertilizer, and coal, things that you might need to heat places this winter, particularly on the Mississippi River and its tributaries. About 60% of the grain and 54% of the soybeans for U.S. export are moved via the Noble barge. Barges touch more than 1/3 of our exported coal coal as well. Last week alone, 2,000 barges were stuck. Now, I don't want to blame this on, climate change or extreme drought. There are a lot of explanations for this. If you read the excellent book Unquenchable, you realize how states in that region fight over water use, and they do not allocate them in any kind of fair way. And basically, it's unregulated. People can just sort of tap into groundwater. Wells are not regulated. There's a lot of reasons why water is disproportionately distributed that causes drought. And we can talk about climate change another time. But this is something that will stop production and distribution of things that we need in order to live our daily lives. Now, you can see then why Jeff Bezos says that it's time to batten down the hatches. This is what the bazillionaire said on Twitter in response to this Goldman Sachs CEO saying there's a good chance of a recession. And he's like, yep, the probability of this economy tell you to batten down the hatches.
Look, and that's a very deliberate tweet that you put out there in that situation, right? You
Don't you think that the SEC would hurt Elon Musk for saying this, but Jeff Bezos can say
he's
it?
not president of, he's not the head of Amazon anymore, right? He's like
But he's got companies.
He's like emeritus or whatever. Yeah, I guess. But I mean, it's a very general statement. It's a general statement about the economy, but absolutely it's going to move markets, and it absolutely did. You have one of the richest men in the world telling you that, yeah, we're about to head into an absolute disaster.
Don't you think that's good for his news business to say that?
I mean, I guess it's a small part of his profit, the Washington Post, but I don't know. Maybe. Look, it's fantastic for these billionaires. We saw what happened during the last lockdown, right? People at the very top, these billionaires, he runs at where he makes money still, obviously, from Amazon. People sit at home and watch Amazon Prime. They flip through their stations because they're not out working. They can't go to their jobs because they're under lockdowns. They have to order from Amazon. They have to order packages from Amazon to be delivered to their homes. They can't go anywhere. They pick up and read the newspaper. They read, the Washington Post, whatever else he's got his hands in, of course, and all of the investment that he has across a multitude of businesses that we don't even know about or hear about, but he still profits from.
Sure. Yeah. So for him to say that obviously scares people because people feel like he knows how to make money.
Right.
And if he's nervous, think about the rest of us. Or you could develop an appetite for bugs. We've been covering this pro-bug movement that tells you that bugs are the way to go. Bugs are the way we can survive when we can't live on other things that we're used to, like real food. Now Aldi is considering a line of bug products through a company called Yum Bug. Take a look at this. Yum Bug is a company that sells things like bug mince, which is like ground beef, but made of bug. Bug stir fry, bug tacos. The mince, by the way, is 8 pounds for a serving of 4. That is not very economical. So I don't know why that seems like a good way to sort of switch out your meal, but at least it doesn't have any seed oils. Here's the ingredients. Take a look.
This sounds like a joke. I mean, but literally, like, this is what Aldi is now going to sell as a supplement to your food stuff because the food supply has gotten so bad.
The great book, The Secret.
73% bugs?
Does it say 73%? Yeah.
73% house crickets, crustaceans, and then also wheat gluten, tomato sauce. If you're allergic to shellfish or dust mites, you may be allergic to insects. Oh, okay. That's a nice disclaimer.
Why would they have something that's like dust mites?
Vegan beef flavoring and smoke powder with your house crickets.
I mean, 8 pounds for something that 73% you can catch in your backyard seems like a lot. Also, in the great book, The Secret Life of Groceries, the journalist who followed along different grocery stores, he did research on Trader Joe's. And when Trader Joe's was bought by Aldi, the trade secret of people inside the food industry was that Trader Joe's was colloquially called Recall Joe's because their products just were recalled so often because of quality control. So how would you like to eat this from Aldi, knowing that they have a high incidence in that company of recall? Like, how bad can that go? I have a lot of questions. I'm not down for this. And just so expensive.
Yeah.
As well.
I mean, to think about, just so troubling. And of course, this is all, the most troubling part of all of this is because the man-made crisis.
Yes.
Right. When you have these globalists like Bill Gates and Charles Schwab. I always keep saying that. Klaus Schwab have this plan in place, and you hear it right from their mouths. You hear it not just from Bill Gates saying that this is part of the plan, and by the way, this will speed the transition. So the transition to what your plan, right? That's your plan. Keep us as sick as possible so that we can keep filling people with these biopharmaceuticals. Right? That's the plan. Keep us as sick as possible, keep us at home, and let us transition off of these fossil fuels towards these renewables that we make a boatload of money off of.
Oh, that probably they have patented. So, I came up with all the green technology, so you have to pay me to use it. So I'm the middleman, even though the earth renews it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, stay at
I'm
home.
down with that.
Stay at home and play your Bill Gates Xbox with your VR headset, so you can live in an alternative reality. It's like Ready Player One or something.
It exactly is like that.
So incredibly disturbing.
I find it alarming that, like, I remember so long ago, this stuff was never said out loud. Like, they weren't this brazen, right? And it's like they've got this small minority now of people that are out there, regurgitating what they're saying, that they're like, oh, we can just say it now. We've got like a little army of people that are out there spreading it for us. We can just say it out loud. Like, they're saying all the parts that we've been saying, for many years that they're saying. Now they don't even care. They're just like, yep, we're doing it.
Because there's this sort of illiberal following of people who want to believe that people like this who are pushed towards green energy are doing it for the right reasons and will not do anything nefarious. And so they refuse to ask questions. And so that works for them. That's, it worked just fine during the pandemic when people would wear a mask. Okay, great. Then we'll demonize everyone who asks questions. Get a vaccine?
Well, I'm just going to start walking around spraying bugs with tomato juice.
What do you mean? Oh, okay. You can try that.
Just a protest.
Throw tomato soup on paintings. That'll work for you.
Soup, on bugs.
Oh, I thought you meant as a condiment, and I was like, okay. If you ever
as a protest.
If you ever read the book
a condiment.
How to Eat Fried Worms, that we had to read in the fourth grade, and they used ketchup.
Same here.
They put a lot of ketchup on it.
Well, let's talk about China and the coming world war that we're about to face between Russia and China, and where there's the United States and Japan and all of this come together. If you're paying attention, I hope you're paying attention to what's coming. You better, because journalists that I'm talking to are seeing a massive world war unfolding right before our eyes. On the one side, Russia and China. The other side, the United States, Japan, NATO countries. A few minutes ago, I spoke to journalist Jeff Nyquist, who has written extensively on the communist infiltration of the U.S. government at every level, and government and U.S. businesses, the Chinese government buying up U.S. farmland near military sites. And I started by asking Jeff, how deep does this go? Here's what he said.
You let the Chinese and Russians in, they will get up to your companies. They will get your executives stuck with them. And they will have the economic blackmail over them and then leverage over all your politicians. What do you think has happened in this country with China? They have access to our capital markets. They're murderers. They want to destroy us.
They own most of the real estate in the United States. How many farms do they own? They own most of the electronic cellular infrastructure in the United States.
They own. They actually don't own a majority of the farms, but they own farmland strategically located near sensitive U.S. strategic bases.
Right, near military bases. Yes, exactly. North Dakota.
So it's what's that about? That wind farm in Texas that they were building a People's Liberation Army general who was a billionaire owns this wind farm in Texas where, the actual wind isn't really enough there to have a wind farm, and that's his cover, and he's building a 10,000-foot runway. Thank goodness the Texas legislature found out about it and shut that down and said, you're not building. Why a 10,000? That's where you can bring troop transports in to the United States filled with Chinese troops. Look, I know this from defectors. The Russians and Chinese made an agreement in early 92 to prepare for a future war in the distant future, to invade North America, to split North America. Russia would get Alaska and parts of Canada. China would get the lower 48 states. You've got the secret speech of Chiao Chen, the defense minister, 20 years ago saying, we are going to exterminate the Americans and build a second China in the lower 48 states. And we're going to try to use biological weapons. And if that doesn't work, we're going to use nukes. Because they got clean nukes, hydrogen bomb fission is dirty, fusion is clean. They can wipe this country out and come in and take the land. The Chinese are interested in the farmland anyway. They can't feed their population. They need to move people. They need to get more land.
So when you hear that Taiwan, you hear President Xi Jinping over the weekend at the Chinese Communist Party speech kickoff on Sunday, talking about that Hong Kong is now secure and that Taiwan is next. What happens next then? What do you see happening from your sources?
Look, I've been told, beginning in late 2019, what I've been hearing is that China and Russia are preparing a war. I've heard it from sources in Southeast Asia, from sources in China, from sources in Russia. Multiple sources in Russia, multiple sources in China. And the fact of the matter is that they were contemplating the war after the release of the virus in 2020. And I think they thought this virus, I can quote Dr. Bhakti, the great scientist who is in Germany at Mainz University, saying, this weapon was designed in a lab to kill tens of millions of people, and the human immune system is such a miracle, it defeated the weapon. And God knows how the Chinese got into the CDC. We know that Emory University that feeds the CDC is full of Chinese nationals. They are trying to infiltrate our system of defense in a biological war. And so who's making the vaccine? The head scientist at Pfizer for making the vaccine was a Chinese national. Well, Chinese nationals are recruited agents. They require their people to spy. I'm not saying he is, but this is just pro forma for the Chinese. You're either for China or you're not. If you're not, you're a traitor to China. You have to work for the motherland, right? So what have we got here? We're under attack. You don't let the enemy inside your gate. We did it. China and Russia are allied. Putin goes to Beijing on the 4th of February. He invades. They make an agreement. They say they're the most powerful combination since World War II. On February 24th, Putin invades Ukraine. You think he didn't invade Ukraine without the Chinese blessing? He couldn't have. He wouldn't have. Now China's threatening to attack Taiwan. Do you think they would do it without Russia as a partner? No. As it was explained to me by Colonel Stanislav Lunev, a Russian defector who spoke fluent Mandarin, worked in China, worked for the Russian General Staff. He said they are going together. It's Russian missile power and Chinese manpower. They can defeat the United States. This is what he told me more than 20 years ago. And he said that's their long-range plan, because if you defeat America, all the other countries have to surrender. Taiwan doesn't matter. You can blockade it. Ukraine doesn't matter. Once America's gone, all these other countries have to surrender because they have no nuclear umbrella. The nuclear umbrella provided by Britain and France and Israel or whatever are too small. Those countries' nuclear deterrents can be wiped out, hunted down. They can't get through the Russian. Russia has 10 to 11,000 dual-purpose ABM surface-to-air, ABM SAMs. The S-300s they put a neutron warhead in those. They can bring down nuclear missiles.
If we can't win a war, and you're talking about the force here, if we can't even compete at all since 1992 with any brand new nuclear weapons, or any sophisticated weapons for that matter.
We have sophisticated weapons, but we just don't have nuclear ones.
What are we doing
we have
then?
Obsolete nukes. Yeah.
What are we doing in the South China Sea then? I mean, what are we doing sending the USS Ronald Reagan this week again? I mean, what is the purpose? Just to show strength? To what exactly do you see happening as we're circling there and near Taiwan?
Well, Japan is very upset. Japan is very close to Taiwan. Economically and culturally, the Taiwanese and the Japanese, Taiwan was part of Japan for many years, from the 1890s clear to 1945. And there was, unlike other people that were ruled by the Japanese, the Taiwanese liked the Japanese. And so the Japan counts Taiwan as a vital security and economic interest of Japan. And Japan is vital to us. If we did not have access to Japanese technology and what the Japanese do, our economy would be in danger of collapsing. And that's no joke. And South Korea is also very important, because South Korea and Japan produce configured chips even more sophisticated than what China or Taiwan can produce. And so we have to defend the Pacific. But this administration, I don't think Biden is really serious about defending it. Right now, the Japanese are demanding it. But what will we really do? The fact of the matter is the Chinese have too many missiles. They have carrier killer missiles, and they have hypersonic missiles, and they have technology given to them by the Russians. And their fleet, they have the largest fleet in the world in the numbers of ships. And many of them, they're just missile platforms. So, and the Chinese, look, I interviewed Mr. Wade of Luda Media. He's the one that smuggled out the 57-minute tape of the mobilization meeting in Guangdong on May 14th. 57 meeting, the transition, the order has come down from Beijing in the meeting. They're saying, we are moving Guangdong province from normal to war. We are going to war with the Americans. We're gonna go into the Taiwan front. This is the same thing that President Xi has just said. We are going to be confronting the Americans on the Central Front. So see, China is going to enter this conflict at some point, and we're going to be at war with both Russia and China. It's coming.
And what does that war look like to you? Strategically, militarily, the size, the scope? Where will it be fought? Where will it be fought? Nuclear? And we won't even, infantry won't even be a factor?
Oh, infantry is always a factor. Look, you have to read the Russian and Chinese war manuals. Infantry is used infantry and tanks are used in coordination with nuclear strikes. But it says the nuclear weapon, the strategic nuclear weapon, is, according to the Soviet military theory and Russian and Chinese military theory, is the decisive weapon of the next war. They don't care if their infantry is inferior to us or their tanks or whatever, because they're not going to win the war with tanks or infantry. They just need those out there in large numbers. They win the war with the strategic nukes. The strategic nukes take down our air defenses, destroy our air bases, destroy our nuclear forces, and then they have what's called strategic nuclear supremacy, and then they destroy the logistical support for our ground forces, and they wave over us. They destroy our Navy, and then they can go over the seas however they want, and they can invade whatever landmass or island they want to invade. I mean, the fact that in this mobilization order in China, they told Guangdong province, this one coastal province of China, to mass nearly 1,000, to prepare nearly 1,000 merchant ships, to prepare to retrofit 64 10,000-ton ro-ro ships to carry military vehicles. You're talking about 16 to 20,000 military vehicles. That's not for Taiwan. And what Mr. Wang told me is they're going to invade the first, second island chains and beyond. And there's Russian, the most advanced part of the Russian military is in Siberia in the Far East, waiting to join up with the Chinese to take Alaska, to invade North America. And he's talking about, they've got code words. The Chinese, Mr. Wang has, the Chinese have the passwords, like East Wind Rain when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, for each of the elements, for 20 to 30 elements of the Chinese People's Liberation Army to strike our Navy, our Air Force, our bases in the Pacific, and even our bases in North America here, depending on what option they choose. And what Mr. Wang told me was it depends on whether America, says, all right, we give in, take Japan, take South Korea, take Taiwan, take the Philippines. If we feed other nations to the crocodile, maybe the crocodile will eat us last. That's the definition of appeasement. That's from Churchill.
So where does the United States in all of this? Like, are we prepared to fight a war with Russia? Are we prepared to fight a war with China, which it seems like we're trying to edge towards as well? Where is the United States sitting in this?
I mean, no. Our nuclear arsenal, we haven't built a nuclear weapon since 92. We haven't deployed one. Our nuclear arsenal is past its shelf life. You go back, you look at the testimony of Admiral Richard, the commander of the Strategic Command, and his testimony in February of 2020 was that in 3 years, our nuclear arsenal will be completely unreliable. We won't know whether any of these weapons even work. We haven't even tested a nuclear weapon in more than 30 years. We have virtual testing. It's a joke. And one expert told me that there were many weapons designers, retired weapons designers and experts who don't think any of our nuclear weapons work.
How does the United States prepare? Can they?
It's all of a question. I think Mr. Biden is basically bought and paid for.
Mm-hmm.
You got Marxists in the White House, Marxists in the Pentagon, Marxists in the Justice Department. Is there some section within the intelligence community and the Pentagon? People talk about the deep state. Maybe to me, the deep state are the communists who've infiltrated the government. But there are these stories. You've got this Australian 60 Minutes guy who looked into UFOs because he was interested in the possibility there were secret programs hidden behind the UFO mythology, secret programs, even kept from the president, because they know our government's infiltrated and they want to defend us. Is that money supposedly going to Ukraine, going to these black projects that will defend us, or is the money just embezzled and used to subvert the country and to turn us into a communist country? I don't know the answer.
So that is Jeff Nyquist, who's joining us, and it's amazing to watch your responses to that in the chat, to get your thought on that, to see what you think. A lot of you saying absolute garbage, absolute bullshit. A lot of people saying that's absolute garbage. And it's amazing because when I asked him the question, America is provoking this war in China, and he totally disagreed. Said absolutely not. The United States is not provoking with this war in China. We have a difference of opinions here on the show sometimes, and it's interesting to hear different perspectives on this. And that's why I wanted to share that, because, again, we see evidence of the United States putting ships, warships, aircraft carriers in the South China Sea, obviously moving to eliminate chip manufacturing and chip manufacturing, threatening to cancel American citizenship and green cards to those who are working in China.
Mm-hmm. Engaging in propaganda.
Nonstop propaganda. So again, what is actually happening? We live in this world where we are knee deep in so much propaganda right now. And so he's a journalist, and you get these sources. Okay, is he getting these sources he's getting the sources from defectors from China, from Russia, who are telling him this? And what is the goal then? What is the goal? Is the goal really for Russia to invade the United States? When he said that, I mean, the Russia to invade Alaska, to take over the northern part of North America, and China would then take the southern part of North America. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around that. I'm not discounting his sources. But I'm just saying with what I'm seeing, and with the propaganda that I know is being perpetrated on us. But he's also saying the propaganda is so strong in Washington. You have this deep state. You have these people who have literally taken over the government, which we talk about the deep state all the time. He's written extensively on the deep state. So I would encourage all of you, go read his writings on the deep state before you pass judgment on it. It's fascinating.
But it could be that there are forces at place that that do want this, and then there are stronger forces in place that want other things. Of course, we know there are competing loyalties inside of government, of all governments.
Right. I don't know. Let us know what you think about this in the chat. I love reading your comments on this. People saying, Eric saying it's true. I saw someone else, I saw a bunch of people saying, listen to what he's saying, it's true. And I saw a bunch of other people saying, I don't trust it. I don't trust it at all.
I'm more inclined to think that all big, major, powerful, man-made organizations do have nefarious purposes. And there's not any one that's better than the other, but some are a bit more transparent than others. Some mind their business a bit more.
Let's ask the question about China. I mean, we've seen the absolute propaganda about the Uyghurs in China that we've uncovered and talked about here, the fake genocide that we've, of course, uncovered and talked about. It's been all propaganda by the West to try to foment, but then you hear people just parroting that all the time on CNN and other places. Oh, the genocide, they're killing. No, they're not. If you actually look at it and you understand what China is doing, you know that's not the case.
We did a whole deep dive into the United Nations report on the Uyghurs and how full of holes it was, and how reticent they were to really say anything definitively, despite having gone there.
Right. So again, when I think about China, I think about, okay, they're expanding their Belt and Road Initiative, partnering up and trying to shore up their currency, right? Russia shoring up their currency backed by gold to move away from a U.S. dollar. They see the nonstop Western aggression, moving NATO right up to their door. China sees United States aggression and NATO forces moving right up to its door. So does it just end with they want to create the Belt and Road Initiative, or do they really, to what he's saying, want to infiltrate and take over the United States? Let us know your thoughts on that. We share it. You guys decide what you think. Carlos says that's bullshit. Well, there you go. All right.
How do we even know anything for sure, right? We're just sort of
Carlos.
Yeah, we're putting together pieces of behaviors, things that governments do.
Well, if he's looking at government documents, right?
Yeah, but then when you're talking about like this is the intention of this, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm interested. I'm like this.
Well, we've got more news to get to. We're going to talk about where your tax dollars are going to fund. You won't believe what your tax dollars are doing right now, and especially if you're in the United States, it's unbelievable and incredibly disturbing. We'll get there in a second. But first, do you want to tell us about our friends?
Me?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Let me tell you about our partners over at HelloFresh. We're looking to make the most compelling dinners, weeknight dinners or weekend dinners that you can serve to your family with HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorsteps. So you can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Now, if you've been going to the grocery store lately, which I do on a regular basis, you know that if you've got a recipe in mind that calls for specific ingredients, many times you are sorely disappointed because a lot of times those ingredients go missing and then you have to improvise. Well, if you subscribe to HelloFresh, they're going to send you pre-portioned meals with all the ingredients in a box that you can put together so you don't have to be disappointed when you're missing something like ginger or garlic, that kind of thing. HelloFresh is 25% cheaper than takeout and less expensive than grocery shopping. That's easy to do these days with inflation because grocery shopping continues to get more and more expensive. So time to cozy up and save money by cooking at home. Fall is the perfect time to experience the delicious taste and unparalleled convenience of HelloFresh. Plus, with HelloFresh, ingredients travel from the farm to your doorstep in less than 7 days, so you know they're fresh. Plus, pre-portioned ingredients make cooking a snap, and you can cut down on food waste as well. You can have your pumpkin spice and eat it too with a rotating selection of fall-inspired items from HelloFresh. From brunch kits to a fall dessert board, you'll find everything you need for your favorite occasions like tailgating, Oktoberfest, and more. Although Oktoberfest is typically celebrated in September, we will not ding you for that, for continuing to celebrate. You want to find some Wurst, you just tell it exactly what you like to eat. So you can say vegan, you can say vegetarian, you can say keto, and they will deliver the meal that fits your family's guidelines, and it will be easy. So go to HelloFresh.com/redacted65. Use the code redacted65 because then you will get 65% off plus free shipping. Once again, that's HelloFresh.com/redacted65. Our code is redacted65 and you'll get 65% off plus free shipping. No matter how many coupons you clip, you're not going to make it to 65% off your grocery bill. So you might as well give it a try. Head on over there to support them for supporting our show.
All right. And be sure to subscribe to the channel. And thank you all for your different opinions. Where else can you have a show where we all can all disagree and have a good back and forth with different thoughts? Somebody else, a bunch of different thoughts here today. Lots of them. I can't even keep up with it all. Let's see.
Well, you know, it's interesting because we watch like who's sticking around, who's engaging with the show. And I'm just, it's not my place to be proud of you, but I am a little bit, because when we present you a different narrative than what we're normally talking about, what we normally think is happening geopolitically, you all stuck around to listen. And that's amazing. Like the number of viewers was actually increasing, even when those of you were uncomfortable with the narrative. And I think you're awesome.
Yeah.
For that.
I just want to point out too that we hit 1.3 million last night. So
oh yes,
say that is awesome.
It does. It feels very good. So. Yeah.
Congrats, team.
No, I think it's important. I think it really is. Yeah. So I think it's important to have different viewpoints. And, you know, we're seeking the truth. So can we find things that are true, like out of a whole bucket of something? Are we able to pull pieces out that we can use?
Sure.
Right. It's like it's like when you read a book, right? You might not use all of the information, but is there something that stands out, that there is a kernel of truth, or there is a piece that you can actually then start to stitch together with other information that you've learned from different sources?
Yeah.
Does it comport with other information we're hearing from other sources on the ground? Whether it's in the Donbass, or whether it's in Russia, whether it's in Moscow, whether it's in China. What are we hearing from Beijing? All of these different pieces you need to pull together and pull these threads and have a decision about. Because when you turn on something like CNN, you're going to get one narrative. They're going to spoon feed you a CIA intelligence state-backed narrative with propaganda on purpose. And you're not going to have a discussion about it. You're not going to have any kind of a discussion about it and, be able to learn from it.
Well, and one thing I like about the way that we do that on this channel is, like, I watch both left and right content. So all the way from Crowder to talking or breaking points, stuff like that. And I feel like so many of them try to pull you in one direction or the other. Their focus is trying to pull you to the right or trying to pull you to the left. Where I feel like we don't try to pull you in any direction. We aren't left, we aren't right. We'll take on both sides, and we don't have an agenda to, like, try to get you to believe a specific thing. We're just on the side of the people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we definitely do not want to tell you what to believe or how to live or anything like that. We just want to have a conversation. We love everybody.
JK says, I'm an open mind. How many of you guys are open mind? I saw someone said, you have Dr. Greer on the show about UFOs. Yes.
Clayton has more than an open mind about that. He's convinced. So
Chanel says
that would be preaching to the choir.
Chanel says Jeff is an idiot. Okay, that's your opinion. Dr. Greer's, have Dr. Greer on. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, your tax dollars, if you're an American, are paying for drag shows. Are you cool with that?
Great.
We found a government grant in Ecuador that is paying over $20,000 to an organization, quote, to promote diversity and inclusion. Recipient will host 3 workshops, 12 drag theater performances, and produce a 2-minute documentary. Here's the government contract that you can find on a .gov website that was granted through the State Department's embassy in Ecuador. This, again, is paid for with American tax dollars through the U.S. State Department. Now, the objective for these types of grants, the State Department says, is to support the achievement of U.S. foreign policy goals and objectives, advance national interests, and enhance national security by informing and influencing foreign publics, and by expanding and strengthening the relationships between the people and government of the United States and citizens of the rest of the world. So this is national security to make other people like the United States, well, like them and like them, like in both sense of the word. Like they want other people to like us and be like us.
They want to, okay.
Right, because that advances national security.
So that's what the State Department does. So we're spreading this around the world.
So how does drag advance national interest abroad? You could make the argument, because America is so divided on sexualization and gender right now, that we need other countries to do that too. It's a part of culture we're exporting, like Justin Bieber, right? Or you can put that, we can put aside for just one second the idea of exporting our gendered ideals, because you could go all the way down that rabbit hole. Like, we want other people to be accepting of the spectrum of gender that we have embraced. And so we're going to do that in other countries so that they embrace drag. But you have to put that on the reverse. What if the Taliban decided to come to America and host events to promote their gendered ideals and say women should not drive, and they should be covered at all times, and that kind of thing? Well, we wouldn't be okay with that. So that may be part of the motivation here, but let's put that aside and talk about why drag. Why embracing drag is the new signal of virtue. Why is it in the government interest for you to like drag and you to pay for drag? Why is sexuality such a government priority these days? I think it's important for me to say I don't have any problem with drag in many circumstances. I'm from San Francisco. My sister and I used to like go dancing at drag places because it was really fun to dance with men who didn't want to have a girlfriend. They just wanted to dance and didn't have a lot of ladies to dance with. So back in the early 2000s, Esta Noche in San Francisco was a place to be. And we would just go there to dance, literally. So that, I have no problem being around drag locations, but these were like Friday nights and we were adults. I never thought that those things would come to community centers and children's story hours as they have around the country. Earlier this summer, it came out that the state of New York, or the city of New York, had spent $200,000 in public schools for drag story hour. Take a look at this. Now, there is a distinction between being trans and doing drag. In this segment, we're talking about drag. Drag is typically something that has been done by gay males. And there's an artistry to it. It's actually really hard. Like if I wanted to make Clayton's face look makeup like mine right now, it would take a lot of work. You have to know what you're doing. Trans is not like that. Trans identity is not a caricature. Drag is a caricature. The hair is bigger, the makeup's bigger, but it is also linked to sexuality in a way that the trans movement really tries not to be. There's a word for this, but I'm afraid to use it on YouTube because the trans community really doesn't like it, this distinction. So I'm going to have David or Philip type it into the Rumble chat. And if you have not joined us on Rumble, that's another reason to join us there because we're more free to talk about these things. And again, you can see my intention here is good. I just want to talk about this, about why all of this public sexuality? What does it have to do with national security or public education? Last week, a mom in San Diego absolutely freaked out about what was brought to her community as a family-friendly drag show, and she went to the school board meeting, and this went viral. Take a look.
A drag show family-friendly, because if you follow it to its logical conclusion, you can slap family-friendly titles on anything. You can have family-friendly gentlemen's clubs, family-friendly strip shows, family-friendly 50 Shades of Grey read-alouds. Will you approve my flyer if I want to host an all the sex secrets of the Kama Sutra for kids and families if it's family-friendly? That's my question. Wow. What is it about a grown man, and I honestly, sincerely, as a woman, mean this, what is it about a grown man costumed in a sparkly bra with augmented boobs busting out, a leather miniskirt barely covering his twerking ass with tuck tape on his front while spreading his fish-netted legs as he writhes on the ground, grinding his groin next to a minor, family-friendly?
Yeah.
How in the world would that be family-friendly? Like, I would flip the F out if someone did that to my kids. And of course, over the past few days, Sarah Gonzalez, of course, has been all over that story and went to a show, and the video is unbelievable. I seen like a little girl just sitting there, like my daughter's age. Like, what is happening?
Yes, we are going to talk about this because she is raising hell on Twitter over what was called a drag brunch. It was advertised that all ages welcome, and we're going to show you some of it, but we had to remove the music for copyright, and also because they use a lot of dirty words that we should not say on YouTube, specifically words that refer to the female genitalia. If you take a look at the invitation there, down in the bottom right, it does say 18 and over, but the description of the event said all ages are welcome to attend. However, due to suggestive material and coarse language, parental discretion is advised. If minors do attend, meaning they're gonna let them in, it's fine. They must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. Viewer discretion is advised because we got potty mouths. Okay, in this sense, I'm open to the argument that, hey, they were warned. They brought that little girl anyway. That's on them. Or is it someone falling victim to a cultural movement that is so pro-sexualization that they really hadn't thought it through? In which case, there's collective blame to share. Are we collectively normalizing something that is not good for children? Well, now, in response to this, Republican states are starting to react. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has called for prosecution of those involved in this event. And now in Idaho, a proposed bill would ban public drag events for children. Take a look.
Out of North Idaho, state lawmakers are set to propose a bill to ban drag performances at all public venues. That includes drag queen story hour events where they read to kids at public libraries. The Idaho Family Policy Center says the bill will be introduced in January in the first few days of the session.
So you think about it, a child has to be 13 to go to a movie that has sexuality accompanied by an adult. But now they can see this sexuality, which we need to agree that drag is sexual.
Yeah.
Even if you're just doing it as a caricature to like read a story, right? There's still something sexual about augmenting your sexual parts. And so, you know, now they can see it in town parades and story hours where they wouldn't be able to get into a movie. So I think, again, we revisit the question, is there a purpose to this? Like, if you are someone who says, yeah, it's great, it makes kids more open, it gives them, they love costumes, it gives them the idea of what? Right?
Of what?
I really want an answer to that. Like, what is the goal?
I mean, I think, well,
if you're someone who's like, I just want my kids to be open to everybody, and that means, but you're saying that I want them to be open to these people's sexualities, which is fine, but do they need to see that? And, you know, do we open them up to all sexual? She mentions the Kama Sutra. So then, like, can I give them these, you know, the Kama Sutra has all these sexual positions. That would also be sexualizing children too early. No matter what it is, it's just, I mean, I think about the careful way that I explained like sex, and we were driving once with my kids, and there was a big billboard for a sex shop, and my son was like, what is that? And I thought, I don't want him to think of this as like a commodified activity. So I just said, well, you know, remember when I explained to you what sex is? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, you know, for anything that a person can do, someone can sell you something around that. I was like, you know, like readers, you know, you give them bookmarks, and golfers, you give them golf towels. And he was like, okay, cool. That's all he needed to know. So I literally compared sex toys to like bookmarks, but it seemed to get the point across. But, you know, I really want them to, like, I want their sexuality to develop more from their own feelings, right? Than external forces, than something that they see externally. That's why there's an age limit on pornography.
So it's a mom-splaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and we can't send our kids, you know, you can't join the army. You can't.
All right. Well, how else would you have explained to a 9-year-old a sex shop? You tell me in the chat.
Right.
You can do it better.
Well, in that moment when you're driving, you're like,
just let him watch 8.5 weeks.
I don't know. I'd be like, I would have just turned out the music and be like, sorry, I can't.
Ask
what?
your mom.
Hold on, I'm getting a phone call. Sorry. Yeah, I'll be there to pick that thing up at 5 o'clock. I don't know what the hell.
What I used to do with my daughter is, and I've always had this like standing rule, and she knows about it, is like, if she asks a question and I know that the answer is going to make her feel uncomfortable, I always ask her, like, are you sure you want to know? And then she'd be like, she'd think about it, and if she said yes, then I would explain it. Like, I don't know what kind of terms you can and cannot say on YouTube, but there was one like kind of a dumb thing that she'd ask me what somebody had mentioned it, like having to do with motors and boats. And she was like, what is, she was like, what is that? And so I was like, are you sure you want to know? And she goes, yeah, I want to know. So I explained it to her, and she was about 9. And so she kind of like sits there quietly for a couple seconds. Then she looks at me, she's like, why would anybody do that?
That's a good question.
Like, I don't know.
It is a good question.
You know, when my son, the way he asked it before this sex shop thing, he said, how am I related to daddy? He's like, I know I came out of you, but where does he get involved?
Where am I in that process?
I explained to him that a man and a woman's body fits together like a puzzle. And that's how the baby goes from one person to the next. And then the baby grows. And so he's like, okay, like 2 puzzle pieces. Got it.
He's like, all right, I'm going to go back to playing Lego. Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. Appreciate it. Like, phew, we dodged a bullet there. Thank God. But this is the point. Like, I want to be able to have those conversations with my kids, right? Or not, and pretend I'm on the phone. I want to be able to have that. I want to be able to be around that and sort of allow them to experience that at an appropriate age. But to have that, well, first of all, you're not even knowing that it's occurring because a school is doing it or a community center is doing it. Oh, we're just going down to the public library because we're going to check out some books, and they usually have some music and different like little festival things. And oh, tonight we got to see a drag show at the public library. Mm-hmm. Or they could be like, oh, what?
Well, it's not,
what?
I feel like kids are just naturally inquisitive, and it's like they gotta each get there on their own. It's like let them question their way there instead of forcing the questions when they might not be ready for that. It's like every kid is at different stages, and some kids mature faster and have those questions sooner. And I think like the education system and people making that decision for parents really is, and there are some kids that unfortunately have parents that would never talk about it, that's unfortunate, but it still should not be on the schools to make those decisions for any parent.
No.
Right. And so they don't sort of dramatize heterosexual relations. Like, we don't get to go in there and like do, like, what if we had a little mating dance?
Make a puzzle.
Would we get to do that in front of the kids, like interpretive dance? Hey, Clayton and Natalie's kids, here come your parents for sex education. They're going to show us their mating ritual.
Yeah, forget the drag show. Today it's Clayton and Natalie. They're going to stop by your school, your classroom. Like, we're going, instead of teaching you the school nurse is going to teach you. Here we go. Put on the music. Turn on the music.
I mean, if you really want to be enlightened, you should embrace those things. And so we'll bring that to you on Monday. No, we will not. So,
I mean, what is happening? I really feel like, because I don't remember any of this happening, a few years ago, and I certainly don't remember this happening when I was growing up. And I feel like I saw a bunch of people in the chat just saying, goodbye, America. Goodbye, America.
Right. Well, it's interesting, right? Because America can fight over this, and clearly we are. But why then export it when it's being fought over inside our own country? Don't we have other things the embassies can put on that, like, we're proud of? Like, throw a 4th of July party. Do that. Or, I don't know, like, there's a ton of things that the embassies can do that is less controversial than advancements in sexuality in this way.
Right.
So it's interesting. I was going to sort of move into the nuance of the trans movement versus because those things seem to be merged together, but they're not the same. So I think that confusion is key because, in fact, the trans community doesn't benefit from being linked to sexuality. So if you're confused, that's good. They kind of want that. And there is big money in pushing this issue out.
Well, there's big money,
in
of course, in the
pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, there's a woman whose research I think is really interesting that I don't feel comfortable showing it to you, but I think that you should seek it out. There's a talk called Big Pharma, Big Tech, and Synthetic Sex Identities. One of the many shocking things that she points out is that when a child is put on trans hormones, the insurance companies bill about $9,000 a month for those hormones. But what those pills were made for is like treatment of cancer and things like that. So a cancer patient would only bill at $4,000. So there is profit and power to be gained in this gender confusion that we are continually told that we need to accept. And also, as we continue to push gender ideologies, there are women who will be harmed in this. We spoke about the trans women in Scottish prisons last week. Here's another example. In Spain, a woman was beaten by her husband, and when she reported it, she found out that he could not be charged with abuse because he had transitioned to a woman. And the way the laws were written there is that domestic abuse had to be man to woman. Since he no longer was, even though they had proof that he had harmed her. He couldn't be, because this is the law now. Another case in the UK, a woman was refused an operation because she had asked for only women to take care of her at the hospital because she was a survivor of sexual abuse. And she said, I really am just not comfortable with men practitioners. And also, I don't want to accept other people's pronouns. I don't want any, transgender people. I just want women, if that's okay, because this is how I feel. I'm whatever. She was somehow sent a trans person to care for her, and she got scared, and the hospital canceled her surgery because they say they don't share her beliefs. Even though she had said on her pre-op paperwork that, look, I don't go along with people's pronouns, and I don't want any manifestation of gender ideology. Can you please just get me a female team, a female nurse? I mean, because a nurse, right, is going to be like wiping your butt.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat saying that's stupid. What? I don't understand
why
either.
You can be intolerant one way and it's okay to be intolerant the other way. It's like, why do they have to embrace their beliefs, but they won't embrace hers?
Is there a shortage of female nurses that you couldn't just, she's sick.
I think so.
She's a survivor of sexual assault. Is it really that hard to just get her a female nurse? Just leave it. Or is it so important that, we prove to trans employee A that that there are no other patients for him? I know there are.
As Jordan Peterson talks about, of course, that women largely the nursing profession has way more women because women are attracted to to people and the emotions of people working with people, while men are more typically drawn to working with things like engineering and things. Mm-hmm. So the nursing profession has always had a preponderance of women gravitating towards that profession. So then why
not just let her have this? If you're having a surgery on I think it was some type of cancer or colorectal surgery. So it's an intimate area. I asked for female masseuses, is that okay? Can I have gender preferences anymore if they're touching my body?
I ask for female masseuses also.
And he gets Olga.
I am Olga. I am here.
Down.
So,
how's your neck?
These questions continue to trouble, and you don't have to like it because the American government will just take your tax dollars and do what they want with it.
Oh,
so,
man.
How do you like them apples?
I guess for me, I'd rather be exporting drag shows, which are a lot of fun, rather than just bombing the shit out of people. But
there's a good idea.
Are those the options?
So that's okay. So the State Department has the choice of they're sending drag shows to Ecuador on American tax dollars, or I'll ask you. That's a great question. This is one of those would you rather questions in the chat right now. Let's ask everyone watching right now. Would you rather have your tax dollars go to funding the killing of people around the world through bombs, or would you rather have your money going to the U.S. State Department, which is then funding drag shows in Ecuador?
Let me ask this: Are the drag queens agents, CIA agents, or are they normal people?
Wouldn't that be the most amazing story ever? Remember the whole Secret Service debacle under President Obama and the Secret Service agents and what they were hiring? They're hiring illicit women in Colombia, right? Mm-hmm. The advance team for Obama's visit and all that whole scandal. Yeah, what if it was the drag show, but they're undercover agents?
But then can I say
bosom buddies or something?
I want equal representation of my sexuality? And so then they have to have shows about like what I find sexy, which means like you just lay in bed and read a book.
Read a book.
It gives a whole new meaning to the word Trojan horse.
Yeah. So
you just lie in bed and put together puzzles.
Right. It's hot.
Yeah.
Well, good thing a lot of people are saying neither. Okay, good answer. So people aren't choosing bombs mostly. That's good. At least we know we have the right audience here. They're not choosing to kill people rather than a drag show. So that's good. At least we're seeing like progress in this world.
All right. Well, let us know what you think in the chat. Do you think that this is benign, or do you think that this is appropriate, or is this just more gender confusion that the United States and Big Pharma really like a lot? Let us know what you think.
Unbelievable. And I love that the United States literally going down the toilet. We can't pay for gas. People can't pay for rent. They're $31 trillion in debt. But this is the focus of the U.S. State Department. Glad that this is on the top of their agenda right now.
Right.
Just like last week when we saw the new $31 trillion in debt number, the main landing page for the U.S. Treasury Department was about diversity.
Yeah.
It was about great. So that's your focus right now? Like, that's your focus. Okay,
right.
Great. $31 trillion.
I mean, think about how far that money could go in Haiti. I was watching a Jimmy Dore piece today, and he was talking about how the people in Haiti need gas and food and medical supplies. So instead of bringing them those things, they're going to bring them bombs. They're going to come and bring them weapons and that kind of thing. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So we could take that $20,000 that's earmarked for Ecuadorian drag shows and maybe give it to someone else who really is hurting because of crisis in their country. But nah,
we're not going to do that. Hey, we'll take some super chats here. We should remind you, we do have a daily newsletter. It's redacted.inc. Please subscribe. It's totally free. We share a lot of stories that you might not see here on the show, but we also do slightly different deep dives. Again, it's a totally free newsletter. First thing in the morning, delivered to your inbox. Redacted.inc is the place to go to grab that. Put in your email and you'll receive it probably in your spam folder. So just drag it into your inbox first. All right, let's get to a few super chats here before we wrap things up on this anniversary edition.
John, yes. A lot of people, I'm just going to say there's a lot of people that have said happy anniversary to you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
John Sullivan, one of our viewers, said his book, UFOs in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, Hidden in Plain Sight, comes out tomorrow. It reveals that the Bilderberg super-rich U.S. government and NATO jets are spraying us all like bugs.
We'll check it out. What's the name of the book?
My book, UFOs in the White Mountains of New Hampshire.
I will read that. That sounds great.
Cool.
UFOs in the White Mountains of New Hampshire.
That's right up your alley.
That is right up my alley. So
and not far from where you're from.
Yeah.
Poseidon Kraken, I have a bombshell report for you. She's sitting to the right of you. Gorgeous. You are too. So I don't know who's saying who's gorgeous, and
no
you
one's
are too. So
to
that's
my
basically
right.
saying you're both gorgeous.
To my right.
Grover's gone tonight. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, here's a nice little comment. Well, it zipped by me. Someone said, this one from Marissa Rodriguez. Marissa Rodriguez says, "Thank you, Redacted. You've helped bridge the divide between me and my family who isolated me for trying to make them aware. I've changed so many minds with the help of your show.
Oh.
Each one to teach one. Each one to teach one." Thank you so much, Marissa. That's so very kind of you.
Thank you so much.
And see, we don't all have to agree.
World said, no, we don't. That's the beauty of it. Right. Stead's World, please read or give a glance at Washington in the Lap of Rome, published in 1888, and connect the dots who really running the show today. Eye opener.
Washington in the what?
In the Lap
in
of
the Lap
Rome.
of Rome. Okay.
Check it out.
There was another one. Somebody wanted you to read a book, Natalie.
You're giving me homework? Okay, I will.
Yes. Okay, here it is. Paolo Bonandin. Natalie, did you ever read The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose? This is a must-read. Congratulations for your anniversary.
The Most Dangerous Superstition.
Turned into a book club tonight.
Yeah. Alicio Demonte, for a quick second, Clayton looked like Dick Van Dyke from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Was it with my glasses? Does he wear glasses in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
I don't remember.
What is he singing, Mary Poppins? It's a lovely day for a... What is he singing?
Doesn't he sing? Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim tree.
I was thinking when they're in the park though, it's like it's a lovely day.
Chitty chitty bang bang is bang bang chitty chitty bang 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 chitty chitty bang.
Yeah.
My final brother friend. We talked about dressing up as that cast for Chris Yerp. Other countries working on infrastructure and building resources such as gold, oil, but here in the U.S. they're focusing on 72 genders. Big question: are we going to make it as a society?
Well, if you look at the fourth turning, right? Every 80 years we go through this massive turning, and we are in the fourth turning right now. And that fourth turning takes place 80 years after a major turning, which was World War II, right? And before that, of course, we had the Civil War. Before that, we had the American Revolution. You see these turnings taking place specifically in the United States, and we are at this moment right now. I mean, we are at the turning point. So what's going to happen? The good news is, if you read Strauss's book on the fourth turning, you realize that after these periods, we actually have a good period. It's goodness comes out of this. What will it be? I hope it's not as dramatic as nuclear war, God forbid. I hope people rise up and throw off the shackles of these governments. And maybe that's the turning that we see. And so maybe we are entering this period. So I hope, I think cooler heads will prevail. That's what I hope. I feel. I'm a glass half full.
All right, I'm going to do two more.
Okay.
Melissa Wood, Alex from the Duran, the one based in London, predicted this exact scenario. He said first Kwarteng, then Truss would be next. He also called the Boris resignation too. If you aren't aware, I think you guys should have him on.
Oh yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, I'd love to.
Oh.
And Nancy G, we're going to go out on this one. Alakablamo.
Alakablamo.
What's that mean?
I think it's a spell.
Oh.
I don't know if I just cast a spell on everybody. If I did, I apologize. Unless it's a good one. If it's a fortune spell, I stick with it.
Feliz Aniversario.
Yes.
Lisa Lott R2 says, thank you so much. That's right. So thank you guys. Thank you for all of your different viewpoints. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Terry, for your kind super chat as well. And thank you so much for joining
except for that
us.
one guy. We don't like that one guy's viewpoint.
Oh, we don't like the one guy's viewpoint, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, just that one guy, though.
You know who you are.
Well, I think, you should always be careful. Like, if you hear a viewpoint and you literally, I can't close, and you close down and shut down and you don't give... That's the trouble. That's what we're experiencing, the form of all of the censorship. We should be able to just sit and listen, take a deep breath, have a conversation, think about it, but to react.
Don't plant a flag.
Like immediately. Yeah, don't plant a flag, like reacting immediately to something. Like, I can't listen to that. That's, okay, but why? Why are they saying this? Like, understanding from that conversation and, understanding, we can really change the world, I think. So thank you all for subscribing to the channel and being part of our great family here at Redacted. We really appreciate all of you. We just passed 1.3 million subscribers, so thank you to all of you. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you for all of the kind anniversary wishes. Yes, it's our 12th anniversary. Can you believe it? Not on the show. We're married. And
of being married. Also, I want to just alert you that next week we will be doing this show at the same time, but the week after that, different continents will change time zones at different times. So check to make sure when the live show is, because we will be switching times with the rest of Europe, and North America will be behind us. So
for 1 week.
For just 1 week. So we will still be 9 p.m. Western Europe. So that may or may not affect where you are in the world. I know that so many of you are from far and away, so hopefully it doesn't disrupt for too long. It's not our preference to change the clocks. You know how we feel about it. So please join us when the clocks change.
So I'll tell you where you can find out. We'll post this in our locals community. So if you go to Redacted, and we'll also make sure we post it in the newsletter every day. So please, if you're subscribed to the newsletter, we'll put it there first thing in the morning so you know. You won't worry about it. We'll make sure you have a link to it, okay? So thank you guys, and we will see you guys later. Much love. Bye, everyone.